Sorry.
No worries.
Yeah, dude, where are you talking from? Like, what should be the frame? People talking here, or are they standing over there?
Just move it on the side.
Okay.
Is it going to last long enough?
What's the Brisbane guy's name?
Yeah, Tom.
Tom, he said he has a battery pack, so that's good. Oh, we should actually set up. A lot heavier than I thought. Thank you. Cool, it's live now.
So is it working off the right URL?
Well, I don't know. How do you make it work off the right URL?
Remember how we had that issue last time?
Yeah, because it's sharing on the YouTube one. Yeah, so doing it now, just got to set it up on the right URL.
Right. How are you going for power and everything?
So it's at about 70%.
Okay.
So we'll see how it goes.
So maybe halfway we stop it.
Yeah, we get a battery, yeah.
Yeah.
So when you get to work at live.SydEthereum.
Right, so in this, how do you do that? Okay.
It does look like it's trying to go to a certain URL.
Right. Well, what happens if you try streaming on yours by going, if you work out on yours how to do it?
Well, I can quickly jump online and just change the
URL. Yeah.
Can you send me the link?
Well, it's streaming live now on YouTube, so.
You're going to go that side, aren't you?
Well, depending on where people are speaking, because if they're speaking in the middle, it probably should be here, which is kind of the key thing.
We just want to get that one of these ConsenSys signs. So if it's there, I might actually put
Well, there we go. Yeah, maybe move that in there. That'd be a great idea. Yeah.
Le 5e, il parle de SydEthereum.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's a bit in the shadows, but it's fine for streaming, I think. Just, yeah, it depends.
I'll bring it up.
It's because the light's pointing down. That's good. That's good. Very clear shot of ConsenSys there, so that's cool.
And we've got Tyro Hub out of the way, so
yeah.
I'll be really happy about that.
No, that's cool. It's a bummer it doesn't focus. Can't really see the thing, but oh well.
Yeah, it's always been an issue.
Yeah. And Nathan's redirecting live.SydEth to this, so should be all good.
Right, so now we just got to get people's attention.
Yeah, well, I think Nathan's ready to do the introductions and stuff. I probably ask him. He's the Hello. Yo, how you going, man?
That's easy. So I couldn't sync on the street.
Bless you. The live stream.
Hasn't the world changed? And that's the size of your camera.
Yeah, yeah. And it's meant to do 4K 60 FPS as well, but I don't think it's streaming at that, so. 4K camera at that.
I remember I was skiing for Channel 9, actually a camera guy on skis.
Ah.
The camera was about 18 kilos.
Holy crap.
Yeah. Trying to average about 65k an hour going.
So.
But it could be expensive.
Yeah. I know, it's now throwaway stuff. I remember taking, like, you had to make every photo count because it was like $1 or so to get it processed on a roll of film, or even that was considered cheap. So. It's great.
I enjoyed that though.
Yeah.
It forces you to set up a shot.
Exactly. I remember when I was young and I wasted a whole roll on my first ever camera taking photos of hot air balloons, thinking, oh, these will be the best. I got them back and they were just terrible. And I was like, okay, I need to make sure everything's perfect from now on. Yeah.
So this is your live streaming through that?
Yep. Should be good. Hopefully the battery lasts. It's the new iPhone, the iPhone X, so we'll see how it goes under load.
How is it meant to go under load?
Sorry?
How is it meant to go under load?
It's meant to go pretty well. The battery is meant to be pretty amazing. It's got like it's got two batteries. It's got one like that and then one like that. Okay. So yeah, should be pretty cool. But yeah, it's at 70% battery, and we'll see what happens through the night, I guess.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, that's been working well.
What's a screen lens? Is it like a 30 mil or?
I don't know. It's got two. One's a telescopic and one's a normal one. But the camera is there.
Okay.
But,
you're getting quite wide and it's not distorting.
No, so that's cool. It's not focusing though. I don't like that. You can't really see
You're not
that.
going that wide. You're only going that angle. So you're more like a 70 mil.
Yeah.
Pretty cool.
I'm just not sure where they're speaking. I think they're meant to be speaking there.
You'd assume in the middle. You don't want to speak in front of the screen.
No.
Rule
Well, exactly.
101.
And if they go over there where Nathan is right now, that's tricky because then all these people can't see.
Who's Nathan?
Nathan's that guy. He's the one running it.
Okay. I bumped into Pete Cooper downstairs and I'm there going, talking about Nathan, but I don't know if I've met him.
Ah, right, okay.
I probably haven't. I've been away a while.
Ah, fair enough.
So
Well, yeah,
he runs the Sydney Ethereum community.
Yeah, so he's done it. We started it together, but then I stepped back and he's taking it over.
This is my first gig. I've been living in Europe for 2 years. So
Oh, nice, huh?
I've only just arrived.
Yeah, well, this is by far the biggest well, not by far, but it is the biggest we've had. Usually it's around 100 people or so, whereas this is meant to be like 300.
And what's your focus been of having a community? Education, adoption, app development?
Kind of all of it, really. Just getting people who want to talk about Ethereum into the same room together. And then we've been very open with it, so we've had lots of different organisers join and they've run their own events through it, just whatever anyone wanted to do in the group. It's it's been really good. Just you get similar people together and they do their own thing.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Just enable the space.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's been great. We've been bouncing around to different venues. So we've been to like Atlassian and Google and Deloitte and like all these different people. And so there's been tons of support from like the corporate community as well, which has been nice.
Are there many travel startups playing in the Ethereum pay your travel with Ethereum contract space, or not yet?
I don't know offhand. There probably is, just because there's everything now. But
well, I've been looking at one and I found a fraud one of all things for an ICO to be launched in Potts Point, Sydney.
Really?
And I'm there going, oh, you guys are so fucking bullshit.
Yeah, are you kidding?
Yeah. All their clients are actually registered to the same address as them.
Ah, right.
Yeah. Some really rookie mistakes for scamming. And I'm there going, what are the odds of that being in Sydney? Really?
It depends. A lot of it, I don't think it's scammy. It's just people are trying to raise money to do their new venue, and it's the hot new buzzword. So.
Having 3 clients that use your product that actually still belong to you and they don't exist is called a scam. No polite way to put it.
Well, yeah. We'll watch a little bit what we say. This is all recorded.
I'm fine with that. I have no problem with that. Transparency is really important. You need to be transparent.
Well, that is very true.
And you need to be happy with being transparent. And that means taking arrows.
Yeah. I respect that. I really do, actually. There's a lot of covering here. And I mean, we are in a bubble right now. Like, cryptocurrency is in a bubble.
I think the bubble's an irony of the term. And the reason for that is if each Bitcoin was worth $50,000, then it would no longer be deemed in a bubble, it would be deemed to have mass adoption. However, on the journey to being worth $50,000, it's called a bubble. So the bigger it gets, the more bubbly it becomes until it becomes no longer a bubble because it's deemed to have mass acceptance. And that's dictated by its price.
I'd say a lot of it has to do with what it's actually being used for. Because, like, say you look at other bubbles throughout history, and sure, it's being used, but again, it's only by a small percentage. Like we're at the beginning of the Ghana peak cycle.
Yeah. Most bubbles burst through bad actors. Even the tulips was to do with a change of treating a tulip as an option. They changed the actual law and the governance of what the definition was.
But even like, say, .com or even railroads, right?
Hi, everyone.
Cheers.
Don't be shy. There's lots of seats in the front. Wow, what a turnout. So we actually had, I believe, 300 RSVPs plus a 50 waitlist. So thank you all for coming here tonight. My name is Sharon. I'm the General Manager of Tyro FinTech Hub. This floor is a dedicated co-working space for fintech startups. We have quite a few blockchain startups here, some of the earliest who ICO'd over a year ago. When we opened this place in 2015, there was just 150 desks and one team of startups. And we thought, are there any blockchain startups in this sort of space? In 2014, I didn't even think we had a presence in Australia. Then I ran Bitcoin Barcamp at ATP Innovations, and 150 people turned up. So it's fantastic to see this community. In 2015, everyone was sort of going, what's happening in this space, keeping their day jobs. But what's really encouraging today is that we have 4 great startup pitches. So I think people are starting to think about their own ventures. And I'm really glad to have ConsenSys here from Brooklyn. I think I'm just going to hand over first to Nathan, who's the organizer of the meetup. So it's a testament to Nathan, who started with, I think, 2 people or 3 people in a pub, and it's grown to how many members?
Awesome. So thank you so much, Sharon, for letting us host in Tyro. This is actually our original stomping ground for many, I think the first 2 years, and then we kind of outgrew it a bit, but it's good to see everyone here. It's a really awesome turnout. So yeah, myself and my mate Tristan, we started the SydEthereum meetup back in July 2014, about a year before the crowd sale happened. I think we started a pub where the Bitcoin Sydney meetup used to happen, and it was a pretty good turnout. I think some dark photos of the pub on the meetup page somewhere. You can see a bunch of the original people there. Some of them have come and gone, some of them made their money and gone, and they're hidden as crypto millionaires in the audience somewhere. I'll never tell you who they are. So yeah, it's awesome to have to be able to put an event on for ConsenSys. So I'll let those guys explain a bit more about what ConsenSys does. I'm sure a lot of you probably have heard of it. It's Joseph Lubin and some of the early guys who started Ethereum, with Vitalik and all those other ones, all those other gods of ours right now. So yeah, thanks so much. We'll just go through, I guess, a basic schedule and then hand over. Sweet, yeah, so we'll just do basic intros, and then we'll have Claudio talk about what ConsenSys is and what they do, and then we'll get into talk by Kavita, and then we'll get some awesome pictures.
So a big round of applause for Claudio. When I first met Claudio, he'd come here in a different guise. He was actually working at level 39. Hands up, how many people who know about level 39? Anyone? 1, 2, fantastic. London is the fintech capital of the world, isn't it?
Probably, yeah.
And blockchain.
Maybe. I mean, Brooklyn is the blockchain capital of the world.
So when I first met Claudio, he was actually working for years at the innovation labs there, and they were doing a lot of proof of concept work around blockchain, especially around bonds. So he did a demonstration here. He came to Sydney. He's Italian by background. He moved to London because it was fintech capital, and learned a lot from Oliver Bussmann as well, didn't you? Fantastic person to be mentored by.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yes.
The UBS team was really leading some great efforts at the time around blockchain, and I've been glad to work with them. But I think I've then moved on to the dark side to make things happen for real, and that's why I met ConsenSys and I fell in love with the vision of the company, and we'll talk more about this in a second, I guess, and decided to join and also move to Sydney.
So we're very lucky to have him here as the strategic initiatives behind ConsenSys, but he's also a dedicated resource in Australia. He's actually seen the wonderful weather that we have here and decided to make the plunge to move across to Sydney from London. So I'm seeing a lot of expats come back, as well as new Sydney-siders. So congratulations, I'll hand over to you. Tell us about ConsenSys.
Thanks, Sharon. Thanks, Nathan, also for putting this together so quickly. And thanks, everyone. This is an amazing turnout. We're really happy to see so many people from this excellent community coming today, and also so many familiar faces. Big shout out also to the ConsenSys team that flew in from San Fran and Brisbane for the event today, and to meet all of you. So I think we'll start with a bit of what is ConsenSys, what's our vision for the future of Ethereum and blockchain, and then we'll go into some more details about this. Basically, as Nathan mentioned, ConsenSys was founded almost 3 years ago now by Joseph Lubin. Joe was one of the very early people involved in the Ethereum Foundation, has been serving as a CEO of the Ethereum Foundation for a while, and then when he really decided that he wanted to develop new solution that could capitalize on Ethereum and bring to life his vision of Ethereum as the world computer, and as a new operating platform for the world to work in a more inclusive and decentralized and effective way, he effectively founded ConsenSys. With the view that ConsenSys would be the company bringing services, products, infrastructure to market to effectively drive the growth of the world computer, Ethereum as the world computer and the platform for inclusion and frictionless commerce. So I know there's a lot of people that are new to the blockchain scene. There are some veterans as well, but I think it's always worth to give a quick refresher of what blockchain is and how it can really enable transformation. Our vision is that there are a number of components of traditional societies, like those elements that you see down there, ledgers, assets, reputation, money, trust, all forms of agreements, either commercial and social, and also identity, that effectively are like a core part of our daily interactions. And they've always been represented in analog form or in some form of digital representation that has never been natively enabled by new technology. I think blockchain is that technological paradigm that can make all those elements of society natively digital and effectively allow for an completely unprecedented wave of disruption and transformation in global commerce and social interactions. The way that will happen is by making all those elements tokenized, and also establishing a new decentralized governance for the management of all those foundational constructs of society, so that exchanging information about identity will not be governed anymore by a central party, like the government, for example, or exchanging money will not be governed anymore by banks, but effectively by everyone that is part of this new network and this new revolution that blockchain will represent. And so when we have like tokenization of all these elements and tokenization of all the things, as we used to say, we can really enable frictionless transactions. We can really enable the economy to flow much faster and more autonomously in a smarter way, and effectively like we can drive exponential economic growth. One of the reasons we are very active in Australia is because we're thinking of Australia as a launchpad for many new ventures and many new activities in Southeast Asia that can really allow developing countries in Southeast Asia to leapfrog their technological gap. And we see blockchain playing a role there and really advancing society globally. Again, bit of refresher. Many people will say that blockchain is the combination of consensus mechanism and a distributed ledger, but also with the introduction of Ethereum of digital tokens and smart contracts. So I think we can stop calling it blockchain and just call it Ethereum in many ways, because that's the protocol of choice for the industry. And we really believe that Ethereum is the platform that will drive the distributed business and operating models of the future, where we will have like full provenance and transparency in everything that happens in the network. We will have truly disintermediated and peer-to-peer transaction, and an economy that doesn't depend anymore on intermediaries or fake intermediaries that are just like passing data around and charging transactions fees and capturing value. As I said, transaction will become real time, but most importantly, we'll have finally an economy that is more inclusive and there's participation of everyone involved. And of course, very important for the many implications that blockchain and Ethereum carries with it outside the pure commercial side. We really think that blockchain developments in the world can drive a number of advantages from the side of social and political improvements. We're aiming to build a stronger cooperative economy that effectively disintermediates all those actors that don't add any value and effectively drives inclusion and participation. So the concept of social enterprise that effectively can govern itself and can be self-organized by its members with a new governance mechanism and governance model can effectively become a reality with Ethereum. And we're experimenting with many of those models across our projects around the globe. A big and important component is also self-sovereign identity. For the first time, we can give control of identity data, identity information, and the way identity is managed back to the people, and we'll briefly touch on one of our products that is doing and addressing exactly that problem. And then ultimately accessible financial services, because by transferring financial services and economics to the blockchain and using the powers of tokenization and blockchain transaction to eliminate the fees and increase the speed of payments and commercial agreements, we can really bring financial services and trade to the unbanked and achieve exponential economic growth. So a little bit about ConsenSys. We are nearly 400 people around the world at the moment, and this is how we are basically trying to make that vision happen by having the best talent and establishing the best collaboration with the other players in the Ethereum ecosystem around the world. In Australia, we've been active since June this year with colleagues in Sydney, Brisbane, and the Sunshine Coast. We have a team of 12 and growing, and if you are interested about working with ConsenSys, please reach out to Liam. Liam, raise your hand. Where are you? He's down there, with our HR lead for the region. And we're basically trying to bring ConsenSys values and services to the region. Our values are around innovation and disruption of the status quo, decentralization, as you can expect, to allow the elimination of central command and control, openness and inclusion, bringing the community and ecosystem together, and collaboration. I think collaboration is a very important point. We have heard multiple times in the community that ConsenSys is seen as a bit of a disruptor, coming in as a very big player in the Ethereum ecosystem, and perhaps having like an advantage compared to smaller startups. I think I want to stress that we're here to collaborate with those startups and help them grow and help them succeed, and bring them to our partners, our collaborators, and really make Ethereum flourish together. And ultimately, some details on our focus on the region. As I said, the growth of the Ethereum ecosystem and collaboration with the ecosystem is probably the key part in every location we enter, and that's the same for Australia. Supporting local ventures, I just spoke about that. We're really keen to meet local startups, local founders, local talent, and the event we're running today is a testament to that, with Kavita coming in from San Francisco to listen to the pitches of the community. Of course, a big component for us is advancing the technology and the solutions built on it, so building a new product for the market, and also using Ethereum to drive an impact in the society. We have formed a coalition that is called Blockchain for Social Impact, and over here in Australia we're also started exploring this theme. Next week we're partnering with WWF on their Future Cities Project Hackathon, which is looking at how smart cities of the future can also become more inclusive, more efficient, and more accessible cities. And I hope some of you will be there to help us hack and build new solutions for that. Key initiatives of ConsenSys. We have like a full range offering, I should say, that started with the development of infrastructure and tools to develop on Ethereum, and then moved into actually launching new applications and products. We'll touch a little bit on those. And then we have what we define as ecosystem services that range from education for developers, entrepreneurs, and executives, into enterprise consulting and development of bespoke solutions for companies and governments. And ultimately, the latest addition, ConsenSys Capital, which Kavita will introduce more details, which is basically helping advancing and growing ventures in the Ethereum space. These are just some of our initiatives, but I think probably many of you know about the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance. It's now the fastest growing network and the largest network of enterprises and startups working on the Ethereum blockchain. The idea is to work together around developing an enterprise-grade version of Ethereum, driving standards for adoption of Ethereum solutions, and also building new application around specific industries. So again, if anyone in the community is interested in knowing more about the Enterprise Ethereum Alliance or joining the Alliance, please let me know. And similarly, we have done an association for the development of accounting solutions for blockchain and standards. And one thing that I'm really close to and I really hope to see it flourish is the Blockchain for Social Impact Coalition, where we are working with, again, startups and corporations around the world to advance the development of solutions that can address the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals using the Ethereum blockchain. Ecosystem services. I think this is a very important part for everyone here today that is working on blockchain or considering working on blockchain. As I said, we were really up for collaboration and seeing other Ethereum ventures succeed. So that's also why we put together these services for the community. ConsenSys Academy is looking at training developers, executives, enterprises, providing also workshops that help uncover use cases and application of blockchain. We run the first ConsenSys Academy program in Dubai to fulfill the need of more developers for the Dubai government that has a strategy of transitioning all of their government services to blockchain by 2020, but now we're repackaging this offering to make it available to more parties in the community. In a similar way, ConsenSys diligence was driven by some of the issues and acts that we've seen in the community. The DAO, I think everyone knows about it, but after that it was clear that we need to promote best practices in the development of smart contracts and development of solutions for the Ethereum blockchain. And that's what ConsenSys diligence can help with, by doing audits on new smart contracts, audit on cryptoeconomic systems, and basically ensuring that whatever you want to bring to market is bulletproof. And ultimately, ConsenSys Lab and ConsenSys Capital, that have a view on accelerating ventures built on Ethereum by providing services to design cryptoeconomic system, design tokens, and help launch those tokens, and also provide financial services and capital investment to grow those ventures. And again, I'll leave it to Kavita to talk more about this. And this is just a quick snapshot of all the products. The reason I'm including this, it's not for marketing, but because many of these are core tools and components that developers in this room can effectively use as of now to build on blockchain. Ethereum is our platform of choice, no doubt that. But then Infura is our solution to manage blockchain infrastructure, make it very scalable and secure. Truffle is our development environment paired with Ethereum, the .NET implementation. And then we have other core components. So MetaMask, which is the point to basically our solution, web plugin for Google Chrome to connect Ethereum applications to Web3 pages. Uport, self-sovereign identity management solution that can be used to securely access and share identity credential with any blockchain application, but also traditional application. And Alicia, that is our analysis tool of for blockchain, so Blockchain Explorer and other data and analytics for blockchain systems. Applications, won't spend much time about this. I think we have almost 30 products in the making. You might recognize some of the logos there. I think I'll just name one that I think the community might be really keen to learn about. It's Balance. I think I joined the first meetup here in Sydney in July, and there was a lot of discussion around how do we do accounting on blockchain? How do we report our taxes for crypto tokens holdings and so on. So Balance is doing exactly that. It's developing a solution for accounting on the blockchain, native accounting that will take care of basically reporting and reconciliating all the movement of blockchain tokens natively on blockchain. And with this, I'm done. I guess before we move on to introducing Kavita, I will ask if there is any question, and also I will ask the ConsenSys team to come next to me to pick some of the questions. So Chris, Tom, Liam, everyone from the ConsenSys Australia team, please come here. Any questions from the room on what ConsenSys does, the vision for blockchain, any comment on that?
Do you have any labs or plan to have any labs/workshops? Do you have any labs or plan to have any labs soon running in Australia?
What do you mean labs?
Like your development workshop?
Yeah, so we don't have formal plans for that, in the sense that we're still like figuring out a lot of our operations over here, but if there's demand for that, we'll make sure to accommodate that as soon as possible. Yeah, perhaps it's a good idea to start collecting feedback and also learn from the community of what will be the most valuable services that we can bring to Australia very soon.
Yeah, so I was just curious with respect to, like, you just said that Dubai wants to move most of its services to the blockchain by 2020. Could you give us one or two examples of the more innovative use cases that you've seen from that collaboration?
Sure. So the exploration of the Dubai government has started across almost all the areas of the government services. So we're looking at stuff like, as I said, identity services, security, but also driving the adoption of blockchain in many industries that are core to the economy in Dubai, like tourism or the real estate services, healthcare, and so on. The ConsenSys team has been part of a group of consultants that effectively has been driving the exploration of blockchain use cases and opportunities for the Dubai government, and also starting the development of proof of concepts. An example, for example, could be the transition of land registry titles to blockchain, so that the approval process of new property development proposals can happen in a more transparent and efficient way, with all the parties involved having visibility of where the approval process is, and also in that way enabling a much more efficient and transparent sale of the property transfer and sale process once the development proposal is approved.
Hi. You guys have a great vision, and it looks very intriguing about what you plan to do in the near future. Have you identified any competitors, and if you have any, how do you differentiate yourselves?
Sorry.
James, Westpac.
I mean, I think can you hear me? I personally think, and I've had a lot of conversations about this within ConsenSys, that there's a lot of room in the world now for a lot more sort of collaboration, and we're moving into a very more sort of information-rich world. So I wouldn't see anyone as a competitor anymore. That's kind of like the old way of thinking, the old paradigm. Now it's more about collaboration, and okay, we can always reach the sky. I mean, we've got space. It's just about getting there. How are we going to get there? That's the next question. So not about competing anymore. I think I've answered that question.
Just to add to that, as a developer, you start a project and you're like, okay, I'm going to have to build this thing, this thing, this thing, and then by the time you build the first thing, someone else already built the second thing, because you have this wide public ecosystem where everything's connected. So yeah, it's like you said, collaboration, not competition. I think is kind of the thing.
Just a question on the vision for blockchain. You mentioned the social impact. I was looking at your comment there on immutable reputation. And what do you think the impact of that will be on human relationships, where it's probably a bit dependent on people's memory, not keeping track of every bad thing that ever happens to them, like your brothers and sisters. You actually don't want to remember all the bad things that happen to you. And what type of impact is that immutable reputation and openness going to have on relationships?
Yeah, no, I think that's a very good point. We're probably not thinking in the way of recording on a blockchain, your daily interactions with your brothers and sisters. We wouldn't go that far probably, but maybe in the long term, why not? I guess we were referring more to, for example, business reputation. Like we have a tool that is tracking and trace supply chains. And I guess a big impact of the tool could be creating profiles for the actors of the supply chain to understand their risk attitude, to understand if they deliver the products on time and according to specific specs. And all of that could form effectively identity and reputations profile that could then easily enable better commercial relationships. But also, if you look at it from the angle of developing markets, could also enable financing to flow directly to those institutions or micro businesses that deserve that financing, because they've been very responsible and their reputation has been backed by their peers directly. So we see that as an enabler for better commerce and also for the growth of economies in developing markets.
I guess I was just saying, mistakes happen, people make mistakes, and you need to move past those. And also, you also have in there like identity. Not all aspects of my identity would I consider to be immutable. I change over time. Do I want to call back what I did when I was 20?
Yeah, no, and that's a very fair point. I think, you know, there's a big notion of blockchain being immutable. That doesn't mean that you can't add new records to your identity profile that can revert what you previously wrote, right? And so that's not just specific to identity, it's specific to any blockchain record, any record you write in a distributed ledger. So that will be the way to address those situations.
Any other questions?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, it's a very important question, a very pertinent question in the industry, I think. You know, we have a world computer now, and so effectively what we've done with this technology, is put the whole world in a box. And whether that is an emancipatory thing or a prison that we all live in, it entirely depends on the software we build and the values that we kind of bake into the work. Uport, one of the ConsenSys teams builds, kind of works on the premise that anyone can make a claim about you, but you as the owner of that identity can remove claims at any time. So you sort of retain that control.
Thanks,
Sam. ConsenSys diligence. Would you be able to summarize the major initiatives and projects underway at the moment, and maybe some of the services that diligence will provide?
Yeah, so I think it's the main service for, actually before I keep going, is there anyone that wants to talk about that? Okay, I'll do it then. So yeah, I think the main service for the community is the review of basically code audit on smart contracts, and specifically smart contracts for ICOs and token launches. The aim of the team is also to expand into driving standards and best practices for the development of smart contracts, and also start looking into the legal framework for cryptoeconomic systems. But I think in terms of what is immediately available now and what ConsenSys diligence can offer today is smart contracts audit.
You had a slide with a phrase on it that caught my eye that said disintermediating non-value-adding activities. Does ConsenSys have a particular way they define that, or is that something that's just subjective, something the market will define?
So the question was, again, just to repeat it, you had a slide on disintermediating non-value-added services. Please.
I think that there's no strict way to define that, and again, you know, we keep talking about disintermediation in with the emergence of blockchain and Ethereum, because it's clearly one of the immediate results that blockchain can bring. Although I think from an enterprise organization, that's kind of like a long-term objective before we will see intermediaries completely disappearing from markets, or, you know, moving away to make space to the decentralized network. But there are like examples out there already that are looking at this. So frequent example, it's Uber. Uber, it's an intermediary. It provides a matching service between a driver and people that want to ride a car to go to work, for example, or to go to the theater. And the technology facilitates that, but also Uber as a company facilitates that, providing a number of services like insurance or support if anything goes wrong while you're riding with your Uber driver. I think today it will be very difficult to disintermediate completely Uber with blockchain technology, but many of the things that Uber provides today in a centralized architecture could be done on a decentralized architecture. And there are examples already out there of new ventures and startups doing exactly that. So I think when we will reach like a stage of maturity of the technology and the solutions built on it, we will move from a single company like Uber centralizing all those services and offering them and charging like fees for that, to a more harmonic economy where different ventures and different networks on the blockchain will basically provide those services in a coordinated effort, making the fees and also the difficulty to enter the market way lower, and therefore providing a better playground for everyone that wants to enter.
I'll add to that one.
The way that's phrased is perhaps a little bit opinionated, but I'm sure there's a lot of people in this room that are already using cryptocurrencies for financial transactions because it's a lot smoother and a lot easier in a lot of scenarios. So, I mean, that's an example of removing an intermediary that has more friction than it's adding value in a lot of cases. And I guess it's kind of fundamental to the smart contracts in Ethereum that you've got this trust system that means there's all kinds of interactions that can happen that no longer require an intermediary.
And if you look at the history of technology, in a lot of circumstances, that's just what technology has done. It's made things more efficient, and many times has removed middlemen. But that's just the evolution of technology. So I just want to say that, I think, important.
And something to just have a Google of, check out, not a Google, a search of, check out platform cooperativism as a concept, because I feel like that's kind of where all this is heading. Once you don't need a company holding the keys to the servers running the network, then the people that provide the value can own the product and make money from it. Sorry, platform cooperativism, as in co-ops, cooperatives, yeah.
I got a question here. I saw some, there are two questions. One is for the real estate and one is for the accounting. Real estate is, how are you seeing the legal framework coming into smart contracts? Like, real estate is more of a legal thing, right? It's, you have to work with government, you have to work with the stamp duty office, you have to go with the titles office, and all that is done by solicitors and things like that. How would you see that in that same scenario on a blockchain with a smart contract?
So you mean how you get approvals from all the different offices on a smart contract? Is that the question?
We put up our property on blockchain, and somebody overseas wants to buy that smart contract for whatever price. Right now, there's a lot of restrictions. The overseas buyers have a lot of red tape to buy property in Sydney and in Australia. So, how do you see that happening in the smart, in the blockchain world?
Yeah, so I mean, there are a few things about this, and probably deserves a much longer discussion, but I think you can use as core components of the blockchain and core elements, you can look at how properties can also become a digital asset and a tokenized asset on the blockchain. So you will have like a unique identifier for the property, but then perhaps multiple digital assets that you can buy in that property to invest in it, for example. And another element is also architecting smart contracts that basically create a workflow between the different parties that are involved and require those parties to provide digital signatures that cannot be repudiated and are immutable, so that every time they do that, the approval of for example, the buying proposals advances to the next status and the next relevant authority to review and sign off and move on. So basically, you use a smart contract and digital crypto signatures to collect that approval process and make it transparent on the blockchain until you get to the point that the sale of the purchase is approved and finalized.
Have you worked with a legal framework, how to deal with to how to satisfy government, regulations?
Yeah, so that's a very good point, and I think it's something that is not just specific to the real estate. Every time you want to do something innovative in blockchain, you then have to go back to reality and play into existing frameworks, so coordinate with existing laws, existing jurisdictions, and so on. One thing that we see blockchain playing a part to is effectively improving the way legal agreements are executed. A project we are developing is called Open Law, and is looking at marking up legal documents with smart contracts code that can basically directly execute and enforce the legal document once that document is signed by the relevant parties. For example, determining title transfer automatically if we're talking about a real estate transaction, or determining a payment or the execution of any other agreement if you abstract the concept. Any other ideas, guys?
My name is Dean. I'm from Optima Trade. Question is about your slide that shows academy. So can I please hear something about your academy?
Okay. I'll do it. So yeah, as I said, Academy was born by the need of effectively training and upskilling blockchain developers for our projects in Dubai. We started with our first course that effectively ran online for 7 weeks, and then also had some frontal sessions and education where basically developers were taken from, you know, this is blockchain into this is how you code completely on Ethereum and Solidity. Many of that content is now being packaged and further developed by ConsenSys to be made available to pretty much any developer in the world and any institution in the world that wants to upskill their resources around blockchain development. But we're also started looking at other specific verticals, like courses for non-technical professionals that want to work in the blockchain space. Also courses for lawyers, for example. And recently we launched an MBA competition that is basically allowing MBA students from top schools in the United States and in Europe to compete on creating new concepts for blockchain applications that are relevant to their industry they are working in or studying in. And basically, with the support of ConsenSys, we're helping them understand how those business models could develop. We're training them around the core concept of blockchain and how it works, and we're also providing them the resources to build those concepts further. I think, disclaimer in everything we said, many of these initiatives are still very new and are still forming and changing as we speak effectively. So what I've said now could be relevant in 3 months, but I think that's the beauty of working on in a space that it's so fast and so nascent.
Are there any other questions? I might just wrap up this segment if there's one last question. Anyone? I think we might wrap up this segment and get on to the interesting part.
Thanks everyone for the questions and So I think it's my pleasure to now invite Avit on stage to talk more about ConsenSys Capital and how she's seeing the venture capital space changing with the introduction of the
Hi guys, this is my first time in Australia. And I think I've lost my voice already. If anybody has a problem in hearing or something, then please bear with me. ConsenSys Capital is the financial arm of ConsenSys, which has 3 main bodies. One is asset management services. With all the token services, we have in-house trading floor. We are developing a lot of products to be traded on the market and the legal regulations around it. The asset management service yet to be launched, but all the legal regulations around it is something we have to figure out and work with different security regulators to work around. The second is token launch or token foundry, which one of the guys asked question about diligence, which is a part of the whole token foundry, which is have external projects or internal projects when they are ready to launch their token, how to design those tokens, how to do the review of the contracts, marketing around it, then making sure all the tokens are launches in the right exchange, have the right volume around it. So Harrison Hines leads the token foundry for ConsenSys Capital. Then we have the VC arm. So 3.5 months back, we launched ConsenSys Ventures, which is a $50 million proprietary fund by ConsenSys, and we are in the process of launching second fund for $100 million. The unique part of ConsenSys Ventures is it's actually a VC hedge fund. In this new economy of where you have equity in the companies, you also have a lot of companies which are only doing token launches. So the way we work at Ventures is we invest in pre-seed and seed stage equities, but we also invest in tokens. And it could be only investment in tokens, or it's a combination of equity and tokens. And to manage that, we have our internal trading desk, which manages both the short-term and long-term position. The ethos of ventures is actually very similar to how the ethos of ConsenSys is. 2015, when ConsenSys started, as Claudia was talking about, the idea was how to create adoption and adaption of this technology. The more developers you have in the market, the more people build up applications where more and more people use the application to understand how blockchain can be used, was the starting point of ConsenSys. In last 2 years, we realized that there's a lot of ecosystem outside ConsenSys across the world building up really amazing, innovative apps or applications or different protocol layers which has to be supported and has to be included in a bigger ecosystem of Ethereum. And that was the ethos of launching ConsenSys Ventures, to reach out to a lot of projects which is outside of the main ConsenSys internal ecosystem and support them. When we look at the project, we look at a couple of things, but the most important thing is how strategically can we support this project with our ConsenSys ecosystem? Is it from the technology side? Is it on the business side? Operations, financials? How do we combine the traditional part of this business and move it on the blockchain? And what are the type of resources and help we can provide internationally? With 33 country offices, is this an application we can just take from one part of the world to another part? Is this an application, a fintech platform which is working already in the traditional world? How do we deploy blockchain part of it? So a couple of examples, 1 or 2 names I can still take as a part of our portfolio companies is, for an example, we have this protocol, Origin, which takes decentralized the data and the transactional services. So imagine Airbnb, and you take out the middleman out of Airbnb, and now you just directly transacting with the house owners or the homeowners. Take any of the other example of the media services. The fake news has been a very big example of how US elections at last 1 year, all you hear about is fake news. How do you verify sources all the way back, even if the sources are anonymous on the top page, but how do you have the back-end verification of a source? So if there is a big incident happening because of a fake news, how do you go all the way and connect it with? Another example, somebody talked about land titling. We have one of the companies which is actually in action, working with a couple of counties in US, putting all the insurance, land insurance, and the verification of change of titles on blockchain. Today in US, when you go and buy a land or do insurance of a house, it costs anywhere between $500 to $1,500. Now the same process actually can just happen in $10. So this is the power of a lot of, I can go on with tons of examples which we see. One of my favorite examples, which I think I'm going to call out for all the women in the house, for the shopping app, which we are working on. It's basically the first step. I think I really got excited about it once we started understanding the milestones which these people were trying to achieve. Today when I go online shopping, I have the amount of data which I leave, not only on Google and Facebook, but on those personalized shopping apps, I have no control or visibility about it. And how is it used, including my pictures and everything, I have no visibility on it. They are not only giving me a visibility, but over time, they're also giving me a power to actually monetize or taking a cut of the monetization of my own data. Similarly, if I move that example to on the social impact side, there are projects which are using blockchain to raise money and also provide transparency on cleaning rivers and deltas across the world. We have health coins, we have water coins, a lot of solar energy data is coming on it, how transparency and accountability can actually help on the release of aid money across the world, how the traceability can help actually all the way to tell me the food which I'm eating, what is the source of it, how was it taken, how was it preserved, is there actually an organic part to it or not. So I think working in ventures is giving me this, it has taken me actually on this amazing ride where I can see both on the application, security, and the protocol level, the changes which blockchain is presenting. And then figuring out what is the best usage of it. Sometimes it's only that people have a traditional system, and then they're figuring out what is the best efficiency and to take out redundancies on that system and then put it on blockchain. And sometimes you just have a very, very new, innovative way of using the same system. And then the security around it, and how in a decentralized platform using the same security which is between the public and the private key is also giving us a lot of different way of dealing with our data and transactions on this side. Right now, ConsenSys Ventures have apart from me, we have 3 more teammates. One of them, actually, Ash again, is with us. He has traveled all the way from San Francisco. He's from our San Francisco office. We have 2 people in New York, and we are in the process of setting up our European office in Berlin. And I'm super excited to be in Australia. We are here actually to participate in TechCrunch Australia. Very excited that lot of technology people, people who have been in traditional technology space last 2 years has been talking about AI and VR. Suddenly blockchain has become such a big space to talk and have a conversation on this year. And I'm very excited that TechCrunch is actually taking such a big leap on the blockchain space, both in Australia and for the Berlin festival. I think we are also very excited to figure out the Australian landscape and see what are the different ideas can we get here. And I think the next step is going to be about the pitches. But I think we'll go for the pitches, and me and Ash going to be here. So if you guys have any questions, if you guys have any interesting companies for us to look at, or any interesting ideas, please just do find us, and we're going to be in the crowd. So
what we might do, just before we head into the pitches, is just a little bit about your background actually, and open up to the floor itself, because I'm sure there's a lot of curiosity in what was the genesis behind you starting this? How did you decide to jump in the World Bank? And tell us a little bit about your own background as well in the alignment with UN social development goals. I'd love to hear more about that, and I think it gives a bit of insight into how things work.
Damn, I was dodging it. Okay. So, I got into blockchain by accident, to be super honest. I have been thinking last 3.5 months that I should have a very interesting, convincing story about my shift to blockchain, but unfortunately I don't. I first got to know about blockchain. I judge MIT Solve, which is the MIT's social impact initiative, and one of the companies which was working with refugees had an identity solution on blockchain, and this is like 1.5 years back. And I had no idea what blockchain was at that point of time, unfortunately. And I kept on asking them questions. I was on the panel and they were presenting it, and I just couldn't understand that such technology could exist. I'm very thankful to the founders who actually did educate me later on by sending me a lot of materials, and then I connected them with UNHCR, and they ended up doing one of the biggest pilot projects out there. And during all this process, around 4.5–5 months back, I met Joseph Levine at one of a very small curated conference, and I think 2.5 hour to 3 hour conversation with him made me realize that this is going to be one of the biggest opportunity of my lifetime, not only to understand the technology and to work in this technology, but also how to create a new innovative way of investing in this technology, which has been actually a pretty interesting ride, because now when we are looking at companies, we can't just look at saying what is going to be a market adoption of it, or how many users, or what are going to be the KPIs, the standard KPIs, because the valuation of the company is what if they go for tokens? But if this adoption requires a lot of security issue at the wallet level. So there are like so many different ways of looking at the companies that I think my personal growth has been very, very fantastic. Going back to the question about UN, so my background is I did my computer engineering from MIT, worked at the Media Lab, and joined McKinsey, which I'm not sure why people do after computer engineering degree, but I did. I worked there to do the Euro restructuring out of Brussels office, and then joined World Bank because that was the only organization which kept on telling me that Africa has a technology revolution which nobody in Europe was ready to buy at that time. This is 2006. Started at the World Bank to create their investment in information and technology arm, landed in Kenya in 2006, October or November, and realized the whole mobile revolution happening. So started a $25 million fund out there, investing in companies like M-Pesa and a lot of fintech platform, which as of 2012 when I left was a $1.8 billion fund. Went to HBS, did my MBA, and last 2.5 years have been working at the Eric Schmidt Family Office, doing investments from fintech to climate tech, to anything and everything where technology can leapfrog the acceleration and the impact. I think in middle of all this stuff, I also ended up creating the first green bonds in 2006 at the World Bank Treasury, for which I have been always connected with the UN in their social impact space. And then in 2013 and 14, when UN SDGs, there was a whole idea of how different tenets of what impact should be or what project should be. I was very fortunate to start working very closely with the UN Public-Private Office to create SDGs. And I think every tenet of SDG, and if you combine that with blockchain, it's very, very, very similar. Accountability, traceability, sourceability, and transparency. So if you combine that, that's the basic underlying technology and the investment thesis for every UN SDG. So it's no wonder that ConsenSys actually became an official blockchain partner of UN earlier this year, providing them all the technology and the investment advisors. And very recently, we were also invited by the World Bank to provide the same technology resources for all their infrastructure projects.
So, if I were let's start with startups. Where do you see a lot of deal flow in startups? What is a really popular idea, and what kind of deals do you see right now? What areas are where those should really saturate?
Oh, there is no saturation right now. I think it's the field where ideas still have to, like, we still feel like every next idea is a very interesting idea. The way they are handling it is very interesting. But one of, I think me and the team have realized that there is something very interesting, is because it's a very new technology and it can be implemented in any sector, regionally, every region is coming with a very particular set of solutions for the same technology. So from South America, we see a lot of fintech platform because of currency inflations and a lot of local issues around it from one country to another country, and a lot of legal jurisdiction solution. Then when start looking at Middle East, we get a lot of solution around refugees and tourism. Then we go to East Asia, and then it's all about gaming and like esports and or exchanges. Then we go to South Asia, and it's usually about agriculture, water, and supply chain. And then in US, of course, Europe actually comes with a lot of predictive analysis and then I think the East side is a lot more on the quantitative. And then I think US is still working out a mixed match of everything. But land titling, any sort of titling or the change of hands on any sort of verification process, supply chain, and I think a lot of social impact projects that I would say. And fintech is, of course, has always been one of the laser centers.
Well, judging by the room, you're going to be mobbed afterwards for pitches. So if I was a startup and I wanted to pitch to you, what is the best way to have a chat with you about it? What's the best way to reach out?
Yeah, so I think we're going to leave a lot of cards on the table outside, and also I think Ash is the best person to mob. we always volunteer in proxy, and for that he loves it. He loves all the attention. So please do mob him. And I think the best way is send us the deck. send us some information about the company. We as a team go through a lot of ideas, and if we really like something, then we always reach out because we really want to invest in the next best idea. And blockchain has made it possible that irrespective of where you are, we can invest anywhere and everywhere. Till you can take Ether. And if you can't, then don't use blockchain.
We always say in startups, it's not ideas, it's the execution. So is there a minimum criteria you look for when you send a deck? Because often decks could be just an idea on a piece of paper. Do you look for some sort of some attributes? Do you want to have access to code? What is the process?
No, we never ask for access to code. I think it has to be a combination of what is the idea, how have you thought through it. We can, of course, help you with technology, but what is the vision? If you have identified a gap and a problem, how do you want to solve it? Why is it different? And what are the people or the type of industry it's going to actually affect and impact? If that has a clarity, then on the technology side, ConsenSys ecosystem is very strong and can help you out. But I think more and more we are finding really talented engineers, team of co-founders where one is a very talented engineer, the other one actually understands the problem and has a very good operational vision of how to solve it. I think those always stands out because we know that the team has the capacity to actually execute it and take it with the VC money and doesn't need a joint venture as a spoke model with ConsenSys to lead all the technology support. So a good deck, a good team, a good execution plan, and what exactly is it solving and how viable it is would be a great solution.
Well, I look forward to your insight when you start the judges. So, Nathan, do you want to run the start judges process?
Do we do pictures now? Does anyone want more drinks and a break first?
Yeah.
Shall we have a 30-minute break, get some more wraps and whatever's left over? There's kegs on both sides of the room. We need to all.
Thanks, man. Yeah, no problems. It's good catching up. Catch you later. Hey, man! Good to see you. I saw you before, and I'm looking at you, and I'm like, I'm sure it's you. No, yeah, I know, right? I've got like the whole tech. Oh, cheers. I'm really, really good. What about yourself? So, yeah, I'll see you in like. Yeah, I'm trying to think when the last time was me. I got excited when I realized. That was interesting. It's I'll make like a real bubble on your blockchain. It was 4 years ago since I moved up here. Wow. I did, yes. Yeah. I taught myself, did that for 3 years, and then I now with my own. Yeah. I taught myself how to code, and now I'm like, so, to do with the blockchain stuff, weird shit, it's a social network where you pretend to be other people. Yeah. So, say you wanted to post something as Tom Cruise, you can go and say, I'm playing as Tom Cruise, I'm going to post this. And then you could then change your account and say, play as like Russell Crowe. Or then get into something else, get into politics and type something as Hillary Clinton. Yeah. So I've been doing it pretty much this year. And I got married halfway through and I've been a bit lazy. So it's nearly ready to launch, but it's, that last few years. Yeah, it's good fun, but the crypto stuff on the back end, because I got pretty into Ethereum, like did coding and all that jazz and stuff, got really into it, it was awesome. But yeah, then there's this other cryptocurrency called Steam. great for contracts, that's why I say smart contracts, but like that's about it. And the analogy that a lot of people use is like a mobile phone in 95. So yeah, that's pretty big. But it's not
You press a button and people come.
It started small and it just grew because everything else grew. Oh yeah, I'm still live streaming. Oh no, it stopped. It stopped. Oh, that's a pity.
It's probably better to stop it doing it.
Yeah, it is true. I'm only at 21%.
Because people always get pissed off when they're like, oh shit, and I'm saying like terrible stuff here, and they're like,
I was chatting to a guy and he was saying, oh, it's all scams. Did you hear those people who are scamming in Sydney and scam this? It's like, no, dude, camera. Oh, I hope it's still not recording, but we'll see. Yeah, it's a good turnout. This is the largest we've had.
Yeah. So it's just like twice as big as you've had, or?
I think we've had about the same size.
Yeah, mate, no, this a bit. Yeah, I wouldn't say 300.
Like
it's bigger. We probably had like 100 before. I don't know. I can't unlock it. Stupid new phone.
I don't know how much it seems like show's just kind of taken over the show.
Yeah.
I don't know what I'm.
I don't know.